Welcome back, everyone, to a new series. This is the first of 2 parts to come out. We really hope you enjoy the story. As I walked home from school, I thought about the long week that was now finally over. I had been up early every morning and home late into the afternoon this whole week. I was exhausted. At least now it was finally Friday. I would finally be able to relax for a few days. As I neared my house, I didn't notice the woman walking towards me. As we were about to pass each other, I accidentally tripped on an uneven piece of pavement, sending me flying towards the ground. On the ground, I tried my best to regain my bearings, looking around at everything around me. That's when I noticed the woman was also on the ground. I had accidentally knocked her over. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to knock you over," I said, desperately trying to apologize for what I had done. The woman, however, did not respond. She just stared at me with a look of horror on her face. I once again tried to apologize to her, but she once again didn't respond, instead just standing up and quickly walking away. As she was walking away, I finally noticed the broken glass and gooey liquid on the floor next to where I was sitting. I was really confused as I tried to work out what had happened. The woman must have been carrying the liquid when I knocked her over, I thought to myself. I was about to stand up again and begin walking home when I felt a sudden rush of dizziness come over me. I quickly sat back down as the dizziness continued to affect me. After a while, my vision started to blur, eventually fading to black. When I eventually regained consciousness, I quickly realized that I was no longer on the pavement where I had tripped. As I looked around, I realized that I was now in a hospital, lying on a hospital bed. I also noticed that my mom and younger brother were now there as well. They seemed really happy to see me awake. "Oh, Eric, you're finally awake. We were so worried about you," said my mom. "Thanks, Mom. What even happened to me?" I asked, still unsure of the events that had led up to me being in the hospital. My mom then began explaining what happened. Apparently, I had been found unconscious by a guy walking his dog. He then called an ambulance for me. When the ambulance arrived, they apparently found small burns all over my body. They had no idea what had caused them. When I heard that I had burns on my body, I sat up and started looking at my arms and legs to see them. However, there was nothing there. I looked completely normal. "Where are the burns then? I don't see anything," I asked my mom. "Well, that's the weird part. The burns have just disappeared. The doctors think they might have just been caused by an allergic reaction," said my mom. As we were still talking, a doctor came into the room and told me that since I had woken up, I was now free to go. Apparently, they had run some tests on me and everything came back as normal. He said that the hospital had no reason to keep me here. I was somehow completely fine according to all of their medical devices. Even though it was slightly weird, I was happy with what the doctor had said. I did not want to spend my weekend sitting in a hospital. I gathered up all of my things and eventually left the hospital with my mom and little brother. We then drove home where I was finally able to relax. The next day, something incredible happened. While I was talking with my mom in the kitchen, I waved my hands and we fused into one person. At the time, I couldn't believe it. I turned into a younger version of my mom, and I was the one in control. I spent a few minutes in shock trying to work out what had happened. Eventually, I tried waving my hands again. Fortunately, it unfused us both. My mom and I were back in our own bodies. The craziest part was that my mom didn't seem to have any idea what had happened. She just continued like everything was normal. In a desperate attempt to work out what had happened to me, I went up to my younger brother's room to try it with him. I entered his room and waved between us like I had before. Within seconds, it had happened again. I was now in a slightly older version of my younger brother's body. It was insane. After a few minutes, I made the same waving gesture, unfusing us both. Like with my mom, my younger brother didn't seem to have any idea what had happened. I quickly went back to my room to try and work out what on earth had just happened. I quickly assumed that my new power had been caused by what had happened the previous day. It was the only reasonable explanation I could come up with. That liquid the woman had must have done something to me. That explained why she had been in such a hurry to leave me. I was obviously still curious about my new powers, so I decided to call two of my friends, Sam and Mia, asking if they wanted to come round to my house. They both agreed and told me they would be over soon. When they both arrived, I quickly brought them up to my room where I began explaining everything that had happened since my encounter with the woman. After I had finished explaining everything, I could tell that neither of them believed it. "Come on, Eric, you can't fuse people, superpowers aren't real," said Mia. Sam quickly joined in, agreeing with Mia. While I could understand why they didn't believe me, I was still hoping they would at least give me the benefit of the doubt. "Fine, I'll show you then," I said back. I then called my mom, asking for her to come up to my room. After a few minutes, my mom opened my door and asked me what I needed. I didn't say anything back to her, though, instead just waving my hand between us. Seconds later, I was once again fused with her. I quickly turned to look at my friends. They both looked shocked over what I had just done. "Believe me now?" I said to them, feeling incredibly smug. Sam and Mia couldn't believe it. Almost instantly, they started asking me loads of questions. They were understandably very curious, wanting to know how it worked. I tried my best to answer all of their questions, but there were some I just didn't know the answer to, one of which was asked by Sam. "Can you fuse other people together?" he asked. The question was an interesting one that I also really wanted to know the answer to. Without warning Sam or Mia, I pointed and waved my hand between the two, attempting to fuse them together. After a few seconds, there was only one person sitting in front of me. It had worked. "What did you just do? I feel really weird," they said. I had no idea who was in control of the body. I assumed it was Sam, though, because the person still looked like Mia. "Sam, are you the one in control?" I asked. "Yeah, it's me. Why did you fuse me with Mia?" Sam asked me. "You wanted to know if I could fuse other people. I figured that was the best way to find out," I said, back grinning. "Yeah, that's great, Eric. I would have liked it if you had warned me first, though," he said back to me. I quickly apologized to him before changing the topic, instead asking him how he felt being in a girl's body. To be honest, being in Mia's body feels super nice. "I wouldn't mind staying like this for a while," said Sam. I don't blame him for wanting to stay in Mia's body. I was still fused with my mom after all. Being fused with girls did feel pretty good. I couldn't wait to try it with some more people. Sam and I spent a while just talking with one another, mainly discussing what we would be able to do with my new powers. Eventually, though it started to get quite late, Sam told me that he needed to unfuse with Mia and start heading home. I waved in Sam's direction, causing him to unfuse with Mia. After a few seconds, Mia started talking. "What just happened? It felt like time sped up," she said. I then began explaining that she had been fused with Sam for a while as a test. "What? I don't want you in my body. That's disgusting. Why didn't you ask first?" she said angrily. Me and Sam explained that we hadn't done anything bad. We still did apologize to Mia, though. After a few minutes of explaining, Mia calmed down and everything was more or less okay again. We all agreed that we would meet up at my house again the next day to try some more things with my powers. We were all looking forward to it. Mia and Sam then both left my house, leaving me alone, still in my mom's body. I finally decided that it was time to unfuse my mom and I. I performed the same waving motion in front of me, which successfully unfused us both. My mom looked slightly disoriented, but she didn't say anything. She just went back to whatever she had been doing before the fusion. The next day, things did not go to plan at all. I made a mistake that I was desperately trying to fix when Mia and Sam arrived at my house. I invited them in and brought them over to my garden door to show them what had happened. Right in the middle of the garden was my mom sitting on the grass playing with bubbles. "Why is your mom playing with bubbles?" Sam understandably asked. I then began explaining what had happened. Earlier that morning, I had been talking with my mom and little brother. While we had been talking, I had accidentally waved my hand between the two, fusing them together. Now my little brother was in my mom's body. He also now knew about my powers. The worst part was that he seemed to like being in our mom's body. He told me that if I undid it, he would tell my mom about what I had done. I didn't know what to do. I was hoping that Mia and Sam could help come up with something. So, that's your little brother in his mom's body? You've really messed up here, Eric, said Mia. I know, I didn't mean for this to happen. I also don't know what to do. If I unfuse him, he'll tell my mom and I'll get grounded, I said, frustrated. I was in a lose-lose scenario. While talking with Mia and Sam, my little brother noticed us watching him, causing him to get up and come over to us. When he got to us, he almost instantly started trying to annoy me. He made fun of the fact that I couldn't do anything. He unfortunately had all of the power. I tried asking him when I would be able to unfuse him with our mom, but he didn't give me an answer. He said he enjoyed being in our mom's body, and for now, he wanted to stay in it. It was really frustrating for me. I didn't know what to do. After a while, me and my friends decided we would just go for a walk and come up with something to do as we went. While we were walking, Sam started talking about how he wanted to be fused with a girl again. Apparently, he had really enjoyed it the first time and wanted to experience it again. I told him that I would be happy to fuse him with another girl. We just had to find someone to do it with. Sam instantly told me that he knew someone I could fuse him with. He seemed to really want it to be with them. The girl was someone who lived on the same street as him. Apparently, she was really attractive. After some more talking, we agreed to go over to her house so I could fuse them both. Sam was over the moon. As we arrived, I told Sam to go ahead of us and knock on her door. I would then try and fuse them from behind. Sam did what I told him, knocking on the door and patiently waiting for the girl to answer it. When she eventually did answer the door, Sam began talking to her as I started waving my hand to fuse them. After a few seconds, the two were fused together. Yes, it worked, said Sam, as he began looking down at the body he was now in. As Sam was admiring himself, I realized just how attractive the girl really was. I could see why Sam wanted to be fused with her. She was a beautiful red-headed woman with an incredibly curvy figure. Her face was also incredibly attractive. As Sam was getting used to being in the body, we all heard someone say something from inside the house. Sam then looked around before waving goodbye to us and closing the door. Well, there goes Sam. I guess it's just us now, I said to Mia. I guess so. Could you try fusing me into someone else now? I haven't had a go yet, Mia asked me. Oh, sure. Who do you want to be fused with? I asked back to her. After a few seconds, she responded, I just want to become an older girl. I want to see what things will be like in a few years, she said. I understood why she wanted to be fused with someone older. I was also curious to see what it would be like to be older. As Mia and I were walking away from the girl's house, we spotted a nice-looking girl across the street. Mia quickly told me that she wanted to be fused with her. I quickly moved behind them both and did the hand movement between them. Seconds later, there was only one girl. It worked! This is so cool, said Mia happily. She then turned to me and told me she wanted to go home to have some alone time in the body. Before I was able to say anything, she was walking off back to her home. And just like that, I was all alone. As I was about to begin walking home, I heard a woman shout at me from across the street. Hey, what did you just do to those girls? You made one of them disappear, she said while yelling. I began trying to explain myself, but there was no point. The woman told me she was going to call the police. I continued trying to explain to her what had happened, but she didn't listen, instead raising her phone up to her ear to begin the call. I knew I had to do something quickly to avoid having the police get involved. I quickly decided my best option would be to just fuse her with me. It would give me time to come up with a better idea. I waved my hand between us both, fusing us together a few seconds later. Immediately after I realized something was wrong, her body felt really heavy for some reason. After a few seconds, I realized what was causing it. The woman was pregnant. I hadn't noticed it before, as she was on the other side of the road. Only now that I was in her body could I see the obvious hump in her belly. Unsure of what to do, I continued walking home. It was a real struggle trying to get home. The body was really heavy, making walking quite painful for me. Despite the pain, I continued, eventually arriving back at my house. I went straight to my room where I collapsed onto my bed. The walk had really tired me out. After a few minutes, I slowly began drifting off to sleep. Thanks for watching this video. This series will continue very soon with a part 2. If you have any ideas for what you want to see in the part 2, comment them below. Thanks for watching.